Texans' interesting offensive coordinator search continues. How appealing is this job? Is this a job that someone should want? Plus, words from around the league. And why is this so hard for some of you people? I do mean you people. Let's go live.
Yeah, it's the locker room on YouTube. You know what it is. Let's get it.
Do it live.
Hey, locker room. Yeah, we in the locker room. Texas talk. Yeah, you know what we about to do. Localize every angle's what we really do. We the source. We the pulse of the city too. Landlocked. Got the game.
All right, it is the locker room, number one source for Texans digital content. I'm Landry Locker. You can see me, hear me here throughout the week. Also on SNL, 4 o'clock with Cody Stoots. So let's just get into some news today. We already anticipated that Nick Caley was going to get interviewed for the job. Now we got a couple of new candidates for this Texans OC gig. The Texans interview Brian Johnson out of A-Town, formerly the Philadelphia Eagles, now with Washington. At one point, he was kind of one of the hot commodities. Didn't have the best year in Philadelphia, his 1 year calling plays. And let's be honest, it was better before he got there. It's better after. Saquon Barkley probably has a lot to do with that, on top of Kellen Moore just being better than him at calling plays. But the Texans, they take a look at the local guy, Brian Johnson. They also, I'll be honest, I don't know who the hell this guy is. And I didn't even know this was real. I had to double click and make sure that this was the real Adam Schefter account. At first, I kind of thought,
this is fake. This is fake.
This is fake.
Yeah, that's Photoshop. That's fake. On my mama, that's fake. On my heart, on my life, my little brother grave, I could die right now. That's fake.
oh, well, it was real. The Texans, according to Adam Schefter of ESPN, Vikings assistant offensive coordinator, assistant quarterback coach Grant Udinski, interviewed for the Texans OC gig per Adam Schefter. So they interviewed someone who was in Minnesota. It was not Josh McCown. It was not the McCown train. So I did what any accomplished media type would do, and I went to Wikipedia to figure out who the hell this guy was. Never heard of him. I'll be honest with you. I guess he started out at Baylor as a grad assistant, 2019. That would have been Matt Rule, right? Then he went with Matt Rule at Carolina. That would make sense. And then he's been in Minnesota from 2022 to now. Assistant to the head coach, a.k.a. probably a coffee getter. And then assistant QB coach and assistant OC, assistant QB coach. So he's worked around some interesting guys. He worked with Matt Rule. I know it didn't go well for Matt Rule in the NFL, but he worked with Matt Rule, and he's worked with Kevin O'Connell. He's worked with Josh McCown. So that is the Udinski quota. I'm not going to sit here and pretend I'm some expert on him. I am going to I'm right there with y'all. If he gets the gig, then we got some work to do. But until then, Udinski, you didn't know who the hell he was until today. Jonathan has good advice. Swarm the like button.
You ain't never hate.
Swarm.
No doubt. But yeah, I had no idea who Udinski was. Sorry. Grant Udinski, yeah, that will be a big task if I have to find a drop for Udinski. You dense. If he makes a bad play call. No idea what the hell they'll do that. Do I think they'll have a decision by Saturday? Andy asks. I would think that I would say Monday would be my guess if I had to guess. Typically Friday or Monday. I would say Monday, Tuesday. I don't know if they would make the decision now because they're at the Senior Bowl, but I think that would be where I would lean kind of in that area when it comes to the OC. I don't think they would announce it on a Saturday. There are no games this week. I don't think it's not going to be like national news or anything like that, who the Texans hired OC. I know that hurts all of our feelings. But we are a local product. We are a local community, and it's understood that the Texans hiring an OC is not like something that they have to overthink. So we'll figure that out. there. I think, Mark, you're being a little dramatic, my friend. Scraping at the bottom of the barrel with these OC candidates, clown show up to this point. I think a lot of the names that were mentioned weren't realistic. I mean, you look at offensive coordinators. How many offensive coordinators in the NFL were like former head coaches? Like you have Kingsbury, who is obviously he's younger. But how many offensive coordinators were former head coaches? Like I keep hearing that, and I find that I actually find that pretty hilarious. When we start talking about it, let's just do this. Let's just do this exercise together. On this, let's get the list of current offensive coordinators. We'll stay on Wikipedia. I'm assuming they probably have a page of that. Joshua swarming the super, he says probably next week, I think. Yeah, I'd say Monday, Tuesday, if I had to guess. But let's just look at these former offensive coordinators. So we have Joe Brady. He was an OC at LSU. Then he went to the Carolina Panthers. Frank Smith, don't think he was a former head coach. Josh McDaniels is back in New England. He's a 2-time failed head coach. He's back with Vrabel. So there's one former NFL head coach in Josh McDaniels. Nathaniel Hackett, he was a former head coach. He's not even the OC with the Jets anymore, so he doesn't even count. He got his ass fired, and he was basically Aaron Rodgers' caddy. So one in Josh McDaniels. Todd Monken, no. Pitcher, no. Tommy Reese, no. Arthur Smith, yes. So there's 2. Jim Bob Cooter, he might have been an interim. Joe Lombardi. Matt Nagy, yes, that's 3. Greg Roman, no. Kafka, no. Kellen Moore, no. Kingsbury, that's 4. Wes Phillips, no. Mike LaFleur, no. Clay Kubiak, no. Clint Kubiak, no. So there's 4 offensive coordinators who were former NFL head coaches. One of them is Josh McDaniels. He took some time off. He was a disaster. One of them's Arthur Smith. He was a little bit of a disaster. He's with Mike Tomlin. And then you have Kingsbury. And who was the other one that I'm missing? You have Matt Nagy. Now, Nagy's kind of on the fast track with Andy Reid. They'd worked together before. Kingsbury, he's overseeing for a defensive-minded coach. Same thing with Arthur Smith. But like this notion, like some of these names that were emerging when the OC gig opened up, I don't know what was the thought process behind that? Because think about it. Josh McDaniels knows Mike Vrabel. He was in New England when Mike Vrabel was there. He's familiar with New England. He goes there. Matt Nagy and Andy Reid worked together before Matt Nagy became a coach. And now, after all the Eric Bieniemy BS is finally past us, he's right back there. So you have Nagy. Kingsbury was trying to get back into the league. Dan Quinn brought him in. DeMeco Ryans doesn't have those like type of connections. So when I saw, I think Cecil Shorts put out a Mike McCarthy. Why in the hell would Mike McCarthy want to be an offensive coordinator after he just got done being the head coach of the Houston Texans? That wasn't even Madden stuff. That was like NFL blitz, like on steroids type of thing. So I don't know where that came from. Doug Peterson, what connection does Doug Peterson have with DeMeco Ryans to where he's going to give up play calling and come through here? I'm saying all this because I don't think this is a bad list of guys to interview for an offensive coordinator gig. I don't think it's that bad. I don't think it's like a bottom of the barrel scraping type of situation. I think a lot of these guys, they looked at them and they're going to try to figure some stuff out. Kellen Moore wasn't Kellen Moore before he got his first opportunity. Same thing with Sean McVay. I keep hearing, well, it has to be someone who's called plays. Usually that guy's been fired and he's failed other places. I have no problem with going the young route. Joshua says Udinski D's nuts. Yeah, we'll see. I don't know much about this Udinski thing. Byron Leftwich. What do you like about Byron Leftwich? I hear that name. What do we like about him? Do we like the way he handled things with Tom Brady? Like, what are we liking about Byron Leftwich? Just let me know what is the sometimes I feel like we're kind of stuck in 2020, 2021. The first time the Texans were looking for coaches with like, there's even like an occasional like Eric Bieniemy that comes up. What are we looking for with Leftwich and company? What do you like about him? Are they better than Slowick? I don't know. I have no idea. Like, I'm not, just because Bobby Slowick didn't work out, I don't think you have to get someone who was like battle tested play caller. Just don't really care as much about that. I think the Caley possibility excites me. Some of these other names, they're just there. I don't think it's a bad list of guys. Not a bad list of guys, but if it ends up being Gerard, it looks way worse. Yeah, the Gerard thing, I like Gerard. I know him personally. I would say no go on that. That would be me. I don't know what they're going to do. I would say no go on that. Why would Matt Nagy leave Kansas City? That's a timeout, love, Dave. I like you, man, but we're just gonna put you in timeout for 5 minutes. You can figure some stuff out. Why would like this? Why would Matt Nagy leave Kansas City? He's next in line for Andy Reid. Whenever Andy Reid retires, it's gonna be Matt Nagy. He gets along with Mahomes. He does a good job. Much more valuable resource than the enemy. Like, why would you do that? Like, could you imagine? Like, I don't even know if I would take a head coaching job right now if I were Matt Nagy. You're making a few $1 million. Patrick Mahomes trusts you. You're winning Super Bowl rings. You're not getting cussed out every day on the radio. Once Andy Reid decides he's going to retire, it's a smooth little passing of the baton to Matt Nagy, who knows what's going on. Why would Matt Nagy leave Kansas City? We're getting a little crazy now. This is a ABB, anyone but Bobby guy. Shout out to Bakari. I'll be happy whoever they get, anyone better than Slowick right now.
Damn it, Bobby.
I think the pressure got to Bobby Slowick. I think it was very clear. I think it was very evident. The more that the pressure intensified, the less he got. And the offensive line was a lost cause. CJ didn't really regress. So there's that. Original J says he's 10 minutes late. What's up? You can rewind, my friend. You can get caught up. Figure that out. And then we'll see what happens with the Chip Kelly thing. No one has said that. Mr. Heisenberg says, what is Clint Sterner talking about? You're gonna have to elaborate. I don't know. I have no idea what Clint's been saying. I'm interested. I like Clint as a dude, but I don't know what he says or what he said. So you're talking about this like it's common knowledge. I don't know if you've seen their numbers lately or what's going on. Like there's not a lot of people that know what you're talking about, my friend. Kind of in the minority there. But let me know. Let me know what he said. I'll try to tell you what he's saying. Just let me know. Because you're basically speaking a foreign language there. Nick Caley is the guy that a lot of people are the most excited about. Do any of the candidates that the Texans have interviewed, do any of these guys, do they excite you as much as Nick Caley? Is Nick Caley the best candidate that the Texans have right now? Should Nick Caley be the guy? And I saw Stoots brought this up. Seth brought it up today. Stoots has been talking about it for a minute. But Nick Caley, the one thing that Nick Caley has that I think a lot of these guys don't is he has options. And I go back to an article, and this was at Yardbarker, and it was basically just aggregating what Albert Breer said. And it said it seemed like Caley was going to be the OC for the Pats. And Greg Bedard suggested that the Patriots passed on hiring Caley for the same reason many teams reportedly passed on hiring Detroit Lions OC Ben Johnson as their head coach. Quote, everyone else had options, including Nick Caley, who appeared to be the leading candidate for a while, Bedard wrote. Did he ask for too much money? Even more than Bill O'Brien earned to leave Sean McVay's staff in LA, where the family was enjoying life. That was the rumor at the Senior Bowl. So I think it's kind of a misleading headline. Like, did he pass or did they pass? Like, did he just ask for money that he knew he wasn't going to get? and say no? Does he just have really good foresight? I think that's a little bit of a misleading headline, but the guy does seem to have options. He also seems to make organizational sense, which we've talked about, because he has the background with Caserio, and he has the background in the system that DeMeco says that he values. Nixon is the next best. That's what James Clancy says. He says that Nixon is the best. I guess. I mean, I'm not excited by really any of these guys that isn't Nick Caley. Yeah, they'll have to grow on me. I think Nick Caley is one of the most popular young names and next in line to be an OC. I don't think Bobby Slowick was that. I think Bobby Slowick was appealing because he possessed the same job that Mike McDaniel had when Mike McDaniel was still hot and the NFL was talking about him. And he had a system that people here in Houston seem to kind of gravitate toward and have a fondness for. But as far as just being universally considered the next in line, I think Nick Caley would be the guy. But the process continues. I would say next week they probably figure something out, and we'll see what direction that goes. I'm a Josh McCown guy. I don't know that Josh McCown is too fond of the way that stuff went down a few years ago. Not the same guys, but I just don't know that Josh McCown's too fond of that. Who knows, though? Never know. Maybe they figure something out last minute. McCown's not going to leave the Vikings, I don't think. It would be kind of a lateral move, too. CMP says, the thing is, DeMeco plays literally no role in the offense. That means we need to have an OC who can run all facets of the offense, ideally someone with experience. Disagree. I do think you have to have a certain personality. I think you have to have a certain confidence, but I don't think you have to have certain experience. I don't think you can be passive like Bobby Slowick. But I have said that I think you have to have that type of personality. And then the question adds up, and I think you bring up some good points with DeMeco Ryans. How appealing is the Texans OC gig? I think it's a fair one. And Sideline Sarah adds the quote, yes, $3 million. That's why I thought it was a misleading quote. Like, why the Patriots passed on Nick Caley? Did he ask that? Did the Chip Kelly thing die, or was it ever a thing? I think it was a name that everybody liked. It wasn't that serious. Like, I see some people, there's no interest. Why are you talking about? You're talking about it because the OC spot's open and you think he's the best guy and he has connections. That's why. That's kind of how this works. Like the selective, like, it's no kidding. You're talking about who you would like to see. But how appealing is the Texans OC gig? I think it's appealing. Now, is DeMeco Ryans completely out? That's the question. I think in a perfect world, DeMeco Ryans would love for someone to hold down the offense to where he doesn't have to worry about it. Now, is DeMeco Ryans the guy making these decisions with Kenyon Green and Shaq Mason, or is that Bobby Slowick and Chris Strausser? I think that's a fair question to ask as well. Like, are they completely making these decisions, or is DeMeco kind of attracted to the interior of the offensive line and he's making the calls? But you have CJ Stroud, who I want to get to something in a second. I don't want to say all you people, but some of you people have a really hard time admitting what actually happened last year. We'll get to that in a second. But I think you have a quarterback that you would like to work with in CJ Stroud. You have an organization where, regardless of what you say about DeMeco Ryans or how you feel about DeMeco Ryans, you have an organization that you know that the coach is in a stable spot. Like, it's not like DeMeco Ryans is in jeopardy of losing his gig or anything like that. You have a really good wide receiver in Nico Collins. You're in a crappy division. And you're probably going to have a lot of assets to work with to kind of shape this thing up. So I think it's a very appealing gig. Like, you compare this to Tampa Bay. Now, Baker Mayfield does create head coaches. And it does kind of feel like he's easy to work with. And Todd Bowles just lets you do your thing. But I think that this is an appealing gig. For sure. I think it's an appealing gig. James Clancy says I might say the R word. Yes, I might. I think the R word might be said. This is an appealing gig, though, for sure. CJ Stroud, still a really good quarterback. To answer my own question and ask you, do any of the candidates stack up to Nick Caley? I don't think so. I do find it interesting that, and this just kind of happens, and we all do it. I do find it interesting that Nixon gets thrown out there, and all of a sudden he's like some sort of like dark horse people's choice. Didn't hear his name at all throughout the process. Didn't really hear it brought up. But there seems to be kind of like a Nixon movement going on. A lot of people like Nixon right now. Intriguing. But it does seem like there's like a little bit of hipster fanfare for old Nixon. A lot of people. I think Jay Tom's in there. Who do I feel really, really comfortable? I don't feel really comfortable about anyone. Now, talk to me after free agency in a couple months, and then talk to me after the draft, and I might feel comfortable. But you can give me a shovel and magic powers, and I could go dig up Bill Walsh's body and revive him. And I don't know how many offensive coordinators are going to succeed with what the Texans currently have. And that's the either or factor in kind of the pissing match that you get in when you're talking about the Texans, is that it's not just one thing. It's not just one thing. Sophia says the Duval soundbite is wild, LMAO. Just stand by. I got something even better for you. There's plenty more where that came from. That might actually be a 3 seed now in the awkwardness from this fella. This Liam Cohen fella is a weird fella. I don't know what to make of him. But he's got a weird-ass press tour going on. And we'll check out what goes on with that. But going back to the appeal of this gig, it's going to be all about the quarterback. We know this. We might not know who the hell Grant Udinski is. Hell, Chip Kelly might suddenly ride into town on a horse and volunteer to call plays. But it's going to be all about the quarterback. And you could be in a much worse situation at quarterback. But when you have this from CJ,
I learned
when he's admitting what happened last year, a lot of it might have had to be with surroundings, but when you have CJ saying this about his year last year, on top of not having fun, on top of what we saw, it takes us back to how appealing this job is and why this guy right here is really the straw that stirs the drink in this certain situation. Let's hear from CJ.
I feel like I learned, that you can't get comfortable. Like, there's one thing in this league, being comfortable will get you got. And, I think for me, I wouldn't say that I was comfortable, but I definitely had a feeling like I knew I was going to do well. And even that's dangerous, So, and I would say, man, it's cliche, but you really can control what you can control. Control the controllables. If you can't control it, you can't let it stress you. As best as to your ability. It's either said than done. So I would say those two of the main things I learned was, don't get comfortable and stay hungry and, control the controllables.
Okay. That's good to hear from CJ. And I think that's a good thing to hear from the quarterback. Very, I don't know if it's encouraging, but that's what it's going to come down to. CJ Stroud. what's going to happen? I used the R word yesterday, and you would think it was the worst thing possible. So I don't know if everyone is needing to have this conversation, but this is just the kind of a question I want to ask. Why is it so hard for people to admit that CJ Stroud regressed last year? Like, he can admit it. CJ has no problem admitting it. You know, I mean, CJ Stroud skipping the Pro Bowl. CJ's talking about maybe not having the right mindset. He's admitting that last year was regression. Why is it hard to admit that? Because it's not like it matters next year. It can actually make you better. Like, there's a lot of guys who regress year to year. We've seen Joe Burrow regress from one year to the next. Why is that hard to admit? Is it because you want to ride and die with your quarterback? And we've seen what can happen when a quarterback doesn't have the best surroundings around him, which, by the way, David Carr sucked. He was going to suck no matter what. But why is it so hard to admit and say the R word when it comes to CJ Stroud? Thought I was talking about a different word. Get your mind out of the gutter. It's not all his fault. Like, I'm sure CJ Stroud can go around singing some mysticals, some throwback No Limit. But what is wrong with bringing up the word regression? Young Costa says in the chat, I think people are scared that regression is a permanent thing and not just a normal part of any athlete's career. Ebbs and flows. I would agree with that. Nobody's saying that it's permanent. Nobody's saying that. But what does it mean? Chase says that Debbie said we aren't allowed to boo or talk about our guys. Yeah, that was a weird high horse lesson from fan. Some of these super fans have gotten really weird lately. D Mathis, whatever. Sorry, my apologies if I didn't pronounce it right. I don't think it's hard to admit. We just understand it wasn't his fault. Some of it could have been. But I was getting like messages and DMs, and I always think it's weird when someone's sliding in the DMs to like talk about this stuff. I like talking about this stuff. I'm here every night. I'm here every day. Like, I don't mind talking about it. You don't have to be angry about it. But I'm getting told what regression is. And I'm getting told, you can't say he regressed. Regression means that he lost his ability. Really? Let me look up the definition of regression, okay? And maybe that's where this is kind of lost. Let's look up the definition of regression. Regression is a return to a former or less developed state. So we're even talking development. Like, the word development and develop is even in the definition of regression. So regression is even factoring in development, a return to a former or less developed state, which can have to do with your surroundings. So that's the definition. I'm getting told the definition, and the definition is right there. These things can be looked up. I think the last few years, last 4 or 5 years, we've gotten in a sense where we take things that can be looked up, we take philosophies, and we just act like they don't exist just for the sake of argument. The definition's right there. A return to a former or less developed state. Would you say CJ Stroud at this point is less developed than he was last year? There's some of the worst years in an athlete's career where they say this is going to be the most valuable thing. Dameon Pierce, after year 2, said it was a valuable lesson and it was going to be the most valuable time of his career. Some athletes point to the worst years of their career where they didn't progress and they regressed, and they say that it made them better in the long term. But right there's the definition of regression. Here's the second definition. Statistics, a measure of the relation between the mean value of one variable and corresponding values of other variables. So we're talking statistics here. The statistics got worse. Regression. The development got worse. Regression. So I'm confused as to why it's so hard to admit something when the definition is right there. And here's the other thing about it. And this is just kind of the bottom line when it comes to quarterback development, quarterback regression, quarterback progression. You can ride and die with that quarterback, and you can blame everything that has nothing to do with him. You can blame the offensive line, you can blame the organization, you can blame the weapons. But at the end of the day, all of that's going to have to come together, and he's going to have to progress. You can't have regression when it comes to reaching the ultimate goal. You don't separate regression from the organization. This isn't an individual sport. This is probably the biggest team sport that there is. There's 3 phases of it. There's 50 plus guys. If one thing doesn't go right, it doesn't matter. So if you're going to act like he's on some sort of island, that's not going to, in the big scheme of things, it's not going to matter. So when you say someone regressed and the man himself is even admitting that he regressed, it doesn't matter why. It matters what. He's got to improve. It's got to change. So it shouldn't be too hard to admit that. It doesn't mean he lacks ability. It doesn't mean that he sucks. Joe Burrow had a slump. That's correct. There was a regression for Joe Burrow. He's elite now. And he'll probably point to that time as something that got him better. But when we're evaluating a season, when we're a week or so removed, 2 weeks removed from a season, and you look back at a season and you say the guy regressed, you don't have to play gang and act like it's like some sort of crazy thing. It happened. There's a reason they're looking for a new offensive coordinator. There's a reason we're talking about his weapons. Like, Colts fans probably picked this battle for a long time. No, it's the organization's fault. He was gone. It was over. Tech Star says it's a slump, not a regression. Did I just give you the definition of regression? There's nothing in there that says permanent. It's like, literally, look, I know that you're a cat or whatever. I literally just gave you the definition of regression. I tried to make this as easy as possible and leave it to someone with a cat picture to not even understand when I laid it out like that. I literally laid that out. Like, you know, when someone says, explain this to me like I'm a kindergartner or like I'm in second grade, and usually they're being a smartass. I literally laid it out for the cat, and the cat didn't get it. That's why I'm a dog guy right there. This cat right here is the reason why I'm a dog guy. That's the thing that I don't understand. Explain the difference between a slump and a regression. It's a season. We're literally talking about a whole season. We're comparing season 1 to season 2. That's what it is. It's a season. Tell me when CJ was playing elite this year. I can point to a lot of times last year where CJ played elite. It's okay to say CJ's surroundings or whatever have him in position to where he kind of regressed. Doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense. Literally laid it out for the cat, man. Rhonda's a dog gal. Me too. Cats aren't very smart. They are actually kind of smart. They are born potty trained, but TXR is a dumb cat. Absolute moron cat. So we'll see what happens with CJ Stroud. They got to develop him. The word develop is literally in there. And we'll see how it goes, and we'll see who the offensive coordinator is. But I think it's an appealing opportunity to work with CJ Stroud. And let's be honest, maybe it happened a little too easy for him early on. Sometimes that happens. And you set the bar really, really high. You don't reach the bar. We're talking like jamokes like me are talking regression. It's not a write-off. Nobody's writing off CJ Stroud. Feel good about CJ Stroud. Not too many quarterbacks that you feel better about than CJ Stroud and what he can be and what he potentially can be and what he's going to grow into. He's a young guy. He's a young guy. He set the bar really high. I promise you, like, he's not going to date you. You're not going to lose your fan card. You don't have to act like you can't look up a definition. It's okay to say he regressed. I promise. I have to go in the locker room. I have to talk to CJ Stroud. I don't have like a logo or like CJ Stroud pajamas or anything like that. You're not going to lose your fanhood by acknowledging that he regressed. He didn't have as good of a year. It's not a write-off. It's not permanent. It's not written in Sharpie. It's written in pencil. And we'll see how it goes. I think the Texans do know who they want. I don't know what the hell they're doing right now. Feels like they might be trying to put together a staff. Science shows cats are smarter than dogs. I could believe that. I could definitely believe that. Dude had a sick throw week 1. Bill Belichick was impressed. Yeah, I thought that might have been CJ Stroud's best play of the season. I would think, Roberto, that you're referring to the first play after the 2-minute warning of the fourth quarter against Indy when it was a 1-possession game because the Colts had those long plays, 3rd and 10 maybe, and he threw that dime to Nico Collins on the sideline. I think that's probably the throw you're talking about. I think that might have been his best throw of the year. He had some good ones, but I thought that was his best, most clutch play right off the top. CJ saves all butts. I think it was actually after a false start. Was it Shaq Mason or Kenyon Green had a false start? I think it was originally 3rd and 5. And then first play after the 2-minute warning, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was Kenyon Green got a false start. And then CJ figures that out. Makes the throw, saves it. And then got that going. Can't trust a cat. I agree. They're creepy. They're smart, though. Dogs are overall better. I'd agree. I would agree. Let's kind of take our eyes off our own paper for a second. I don't know what's up with this guy, but this is a weird dude. This Liam Cohen fella with the Jags. And this was the one that went viral. Someone put together 30 minutes of him saying Duval. I think that's a little much. But this was the one that went viral. And I'm just going to warn y'all. There might be weirder stuff from this guy than this. Let's just hear this Duval thing for a second.
Duval.
Okay.
Duval.
All right, that's enough of that. So that's really weird. But then I just discovered this from the Jags website. I saw this on one of my favorite Twitter accounts, the Coach Speak. And I actually think Sideline Sarah is the best for like localized Texans news. So I saw she was in the chat. I think she provides a very good service and resource for a lot of people. I'm actually kind of mad at her because when I was I'm not mad at her, I'm just kidding. But when I was like doing radio, that was the kind of stuff that I would like to dig up. Now she's just making it easier for lazy folks. And she's making it easier for me, if I'm being honest. But yeah. But y'all thought that was weird? I think this is weird. And I want y'all to tell me what this guy's doing. So he's getting interviewed by this Jags employee. Look at this.
Man, getting to know them and hearing their vision and hearing what they want best for this program and organization, it's really cool to see.
Obviously, we know you've been able to do with other quarterbacks that you've worked with.
Who's he snapping at? Like, look back there. There's no one back there. Who is my man snapping at?
Man, getting to know them and hearing their vision and hearing what they want best for this program and organization, it's really cool to see.
Obviously, we know you've been able to do with other quarterbacks that you've worked with.
Man, getting to know them and hearing their
what is
vision
going on
and hearing
here?
what they want best for this program and organization, it's really cool to see.
Obviously, we know you've been able.
What? Who is he snapping at? No one's even close to him. This dude's a trip, man. This dude's a trip. I might have to hang out with this guy.
High-grade marijuana called Kush on the streets.
What is going on with this guy? Look, he might end up being a good coach. This guy looks like an idiot, though. And the other thing that I think you want to take into account, like if you do want to hate on the Jags, and I'm sure a lot of Texans fans do, like the guy before him became a head coach as well. So maybe their offense is just set up to where you're in a good situation. But that guy is a weird guy. Someone says he sold him a 3.5. Okay. I don't know what's going on with this guy. Weird dude. Sarah says he has a young son that was there. Okay, maybe the son was like somewhere not in the picture and that's what he was doing. I don't know. You kind of lose the benefit of the doubt when you're doing that Duval. Then he was at another Jags event. He was with Tony Baselli, and I'm watching this for the first time with y'all. The Jags actually have the number 5 overall pick. Right now, wide receiver is the talk. I'll be honest. They already got Brian Thomas, who very well could be the best receiver in the division next year. No disrespect to Nico. I just think that highly of Brian Thomas. Nico will hold his own, but I think Brian Thomas is going to be nice. There's talk that they might draft a wide receiver at 5 and perhaps get the best receiver in this draft, which could be somewhat scary, especially given the fact that you have Trevor Lawrence and you got to figure it out as much. I'm watching this for the first time with y'all. I don't know if this is goofy or not, but I guess it's discussion about, although his shoes are pretty sick, it's discussion about what they're going to take, and let's just see how he works a crowd.
One more question. We'll get it done tonight. This is from Anonymous. Given that you're an offensive-minded coach, what is your plan for the 5th pick of the draft?
Hey. Well,
one more question.
Hold on. What are all these guys just puff passing? What's going on here? This seems like a normal question, like you have a Q&A. Hey, what's your thought on the draft? I think Baselli, look how skinny Baselli is, by the way. What are these guys on right now?
One more question. We'll get it done tonight. This is from Anonymous. Given that you're an offensive-minded coach, what is your plan for the 5th pick of the draft?
Hey. Well, I'd like to hear some suggestions real fast. Hey, at the end of the day, man, we want to play physical defense.
There we go.
We want to play physical brand of football. We want to play good defense. We want to be fundamentally sound on special teams, but we better go light that scoreboard up on offense.
I thought that was pretty good, actually. I'm not going to hate just to hate. I actually thought he did a pretty good job there. Pretty good job. Tay on the chat asks, why is Chip a fan favorite? Just curious. He's probably the most established. He's innovative. He's battle tested. He's probably the least likely to go. He just won a national championship. He's got NFL experience. He's got play calling experience. I would think, I don't know. I would say that's probably why Chip Kelly's so popular. Not sure. He's a good hire energy-wise, more of a AA O'Brien guy. Okay. I don't think I need a Duval soundbite. I think that would kind of drive me nuts. What say y'all? What should the Texans do at OC? Is this job appealing? My answers to both of those questions would be Caley and yes. And just get it out of your system. Say the R word. Regression. It's okay. If you feel dirty, just go look up the definition. It'll set you free. SNL tomorrow at 4. We got you covered. Let's eat. Let's feast. And let's always remember when it comes to this Texan stuff, we're all in it together. Y'all have a good night. Talk to you Mignon.
Got the game in the headlock, localized every time, can't stop, won't stop. Yeah, we top 2 and we not too plugged in daily digital on YouTube. We got taste for days, opinions to give, we got takeaways. If it's up, then it's up, we number 1. You don't need to try your luck. Locker room, yeah, we in the locker room. Texas talk, yeah, you know what we about to do. Localize